views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Open 2.0. I'm your host, Nancy. On today's show, we discuss the comings and goings in the world of the acting, directing, and writing. Please welcome Stephanie So to the show.
Thanks, Nancy. It's nice to be here.
So, when did you first realize you wanted to become a writer?
That's really interesting. That's a great question. I really didn't know I wanted to be a writer until I was in my mid to late 20s. I came to it sort of late.
So, when did you start playwriting? Like, when was the inspiration for that?
I began playwriting in the late 90s. I had been an actor. I got my undergraduate degree in theater. I toured with a national touring company for about a year out of Washington, D.C. And I always loved acting. It was fun. I worked in a couple regional theaters. I moved to New York in 1993 and did some work here, did some off-Broadway, some commercials. And the whole time I was auditioning, I would get scripts and be sort of interested in the idea of writing, but I didn't really try my hand at it until 1996, 97, which is a while ago. I was in my late 20s and I wrote my first play.
So, is there anything really interesting in playwriting that drew you to that?
I think I just always love people, stories about people who are flawed, struggling with day-to-day conflict. The pieces that I write or try to write usually deal with characters who are struggling with something internally and externally. And that has always drawn me to the work, just sort of discovering those people and writing for them and then giving that to actors to sort of transform and bring to the stage.
So do you stick to more of like reality, or like fantasy?
I primarily work in reality-based drama. I haven't really ever done anything that was abstract theater. I really do focus on sort of the day-to-day kitchen sink theater dramas. Yeah.
Yeah. So does that help to relate to your audience, or do you have a specific audience that you're trying to reach in your plays?
I think just regular people like yourself and myself who are living every day and dealing with relationships and families and pressures. I think those always make great stories.
So do you have a specific genre that you prefer?
I just like contemporary drama with a little bit of comedy always. That's sort of what I think I'm best at. I am working on a new piece right now that's brand new for me. It's a musical. It's called Mayflower Avenue, and I'm writing what's called the book or the libretto, working with a lyricist and a composer, arrangers on it, and it's exciting for me because it's a modern.
It's your first musical?
It's my very first musical, so It's a little scary, but a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot as I do it, and it's really more of a play with music.
So, are you helping with the lyrics and like?
Lyrics are not really my thing. I'm working with the lyricist, and we bounce ideas off of each other. It's been pretty collaborative, which is fun. Playwriting can be a very solitary practice sometimes because you live with all these characters in your head and sit down and sort of put them on the page. It's solitary until you get actors involved and you hear your words kind of come to life. But this is fun for me. It's much more collaborative. I'm working with a writing partner. And
so do you help with casting your actors and finding the right one for the role?
In the past I have. I'm a part of a company that's based here at Lehman College called Bronx Repertory Company. It's been here for 15 or 20 years. I'm a producing and founding member. And yes, we do hold auditions when we're doing new work, and we do have some say in the casting of the
So
pieces.
with actors that you work with, do you like fix certain parts in the role for that person specifically?
Do you mean write a part?
Yeah,
sort
write
of?
a part for them, or if they say, I have this, like sort of thing, like to help them. I don't know how to explain it, but I don't know. Just if you have a student, for example, and you want to write a role specifically for them, do you ever do that?
I have actually, yeah. I've had lots of amazing students come through my classes since I've been teaching at Lehman, and I absolutely take inspiration from some of the students that are actors in my classes. And I have based characters on them to a degree. I mean, a lot of times characters are an amalgamation of lots of different people. But if I'm working, I think you're asking if I'm working with a student actor and
Yeah.
we're working in a new piece, there are definitely times where it's collaborative. They'll give me feedback about a line or a moment in the play, and I'll change lines around. They help me a lot with the writing often.
So do you have like a certain creative process, or what's that like for you, starting a new play?
Yeah, I think for the most part, ideas will come to me, and I will just start writing. Usually, for me, and I don't know if this is common for a lot of playwrights, I almost always kind of know the ending that I want first. So I sometimes work backwards. I kind of see that ending moment of a play and work almost in reverse, and then try to get there.
So I want to talk a little bit more about your acting. So how did you start with your acting career?
I came to that late also. I started just in college for fun, and I was actually going to be a fine artist originally, and I had a sort of shift in life plans that happened pretty abruptly, and I ended up leaving a small liberal arts college in the South and ended up transferring out to New Mexico, which is a strange place to go from where I was, and fell into a theater department there that was headed by a very famous playwright at the time whose name was Mark Medoff. He actually just recently passed away a couple weeks ago, and he was a pretty inspirational guy in my life, a mentor. I was an actor mostly at that time, but I did get to watch his process of writing, how he worked on new and original work, and that was really educational for me as a young actor.
So with your acting career and now writing, did that help you with an idea? So if you have did acting when you were younger help you now that you're a writer? Did you envision yourself in the actors that you give roles to?
It absolutely helped me. I know as a young actor, I know the kind of material that would move me, that would make me connect to characters if it was well written. So as a writer, I'm always thinking about the actors that are going to hold my scripts and giving them, trying to make their jobs easier. Because acting is a hard job. It's very, very difficult. And if the play you're working with isn't strong, it makes your job much harder. So I'm always thinking about actors because I think that's where I was originally 20 plus years ago. If I do my job right, it helps them and they get to have fun, and what they do becomes easier and more enjoyable for everybody, hopefully.
Okay, so we have to take a quick break, but stay tuned for more Open 2.0. Welcome back. We continue with Stephanie Stowe. So now I want to talk more about your directing career. So how long have you been a director?
I started directing probably a little over 10 years ago, and started with some pieces here at the college, directed a couple of plays for the theater department. Lobby Hero, Our Lady of 121st Street, a couple short workshop performances, and then some stuff on Theater Row, also by Lehman students who asked me to come out and sort of help them put shows up in the city. I did a couple things like that.
So what made you pursue directing? What was your inspiration?
I just got asked to do it, so I said yes. And I love directing. I think it's a lot of fun. It's really interesting to explore that aspect of the creative process as a playwright.
So having an acting career, did that help you knowing how to direct your actors?
Sure,
Because
yeah.
you know what you want for yourself, so did that help you?
I think when you're an actor first, you understand how to communicate to actors. You understand what you need or needed as an actor, so it makes your job as a director a lot easier, because directing is about communication, I find, how you get everybody to understand where you all want to end up in the telling of a story. And
So have you ever had any difficulties trying to tell your actors how to show a certain emotion, like in a very emotional scene, like if they're not doing it right, is that difficult?
Sure. I try to. It's interesting you said not doing it right. I think it's really hard when you're working with actors. You never want to make them feel that they're failing in a choice or in a rehearsal. I kind of always refer to it when I'm working with actors as there's interesting choices and there's more interesting choices. So we're always going for the more interesting choice.
So have you always had an interest in directing? Has that something that's been in the back of your mind?
Directing is not my main angle but I love to do it. If I'm asked to do it, I love to take it on. I especially like working or directing new pieces, which I did just recently here at Lehman at the end of February. I directed the New Voices Student Playwright Festival here at Lehman. It's the 5th year or 6th year that they've done it, and I've been involved directing the last 3 years.
So what's that been about? Like,
the way it's structured is usually there'll be a playwriting course in the fall, and whoever's teaching that, in this case it was the head of our department, Rick DeRoche, who taught the playwriting class, and he selected 2 plays that he thought had a lot of promise and asked me to read them and asked me if I would help develop them and direct them for the festival. And I said, yeah, and we did it. We worked on these 2 plays and put them up.
so are there any directors who inspire you?
There are. You're putting me on the spot. I hadn't really thought about it. There's a couple very strong female directors right now that are working, particularly female directors, because they're not represented as much. I'm not going to remember her last name, and I'm going to feel stupid about it, but there's the director of Hadestown has done some interesting work. I believe her first name is Rachel. I'm sorry, I can't remember her last name. There's interesting directors out there doing all kinds of interesting stuff. So I'm always sort of trying to pay attention to female directors and writers. There's a lot of strong female playwrights out there right now who are doing beautiful work. And
So during, because you're a playwright and during Tech Week, how important is Tech Week for the whole process of the play?
Tech Week is also called, you probably heard, Hell Week.
Yeah.
It's a really important part of the process. And I always think that Tech Week sort of helps actors and theater artists decide if they really love being in the theater or not, because it is sort of punishing. It can be. But yeah, I think that Tech Week is a giantly important part of the process. And for a young playwright who might be watching their first play get produced, it's also sort of a magical time.
Yeah.
This last January, or actually February, being able to be in the theater with James Arbuda Bailey, who was the author of Miracle in the Garden, one of the plays, to watch him see everything fall into place was really interesting.
Thank you, Stephanie Stowe, for coming in today.
Thank you, Nancy.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank our guests for coming through today and you, the viewer, for tuning in. Until next time, I'm your host, Nancy.